Oh man, and here we are. Yes, getting our news on together. Good morning, everybody. I hope everyone is well. I hope everyone's dreams are coming true. I hope everyone is having their morning coffee. I hope everyone is having lunch if it's the time. What's up, Joe? Good to see you, buddy. Right now it's just me and you. Apparently. There might be some announcements really soon concerning tour dates too, and I'm stoked. Yeah. Oh. What's up, Slow News Day? Good to see ya. What town are you in again? Remind me, because we're trying to do up and we're having some lag. That could be part of the problem. Things are looking good on my end. Hopefully it goes away soon. Hello, Aaron. How are you? Is the lag getting any better, or are we still lagging up? It's saying it's good on my end. Good morning, Karen. How are you? Boulder Creek, Santa Cruz. All right. Thank you very much for that. That's not on the way to Fresno, is it? That's like they're the opposites. Yeah. All right. What's up, Matthew? Good to see you. Been a minute. Thank you for the wave. Schultzy, what's up? Hopefully the stream kicks in here. I know we were lagging a little bit. Hopefully it goes away before the show officially begins. What's up, David? Good to see you. What's up, Tim? Tim, you're in New Mexico, right? All right, good. So it looks like the stream is getting better. Oh, and Aaron, you were the person that sent me the information on performing in Australia, right? That was you. Thank you for that. That was very helpful. And we'll be we're gonna come to Australia. And Tim, I'm gonna book some New Mexico shows. I've decided I want to. My fiance really wants to go to the Georgia O'Keeffe, and so I got to take her. Are you in Albuquerque or Santa Fe? If you don't feel like sharing that, you don't have to. But you know. When will you be on Crosstalk again? Joel, as soon as Peter invites me. There's a lot of different people that do spots on that show. I'm only one of them. I love doing that show. I like to go whenever Peter wants to have me. And so, I just kind of wait to hear from him. Every now and again, if it's been a while, I'll give him a nudge. And I'll be like, hey, it's been a while. I hope you'll consider me for something. But yeah, usually whenever he has me, I try to do it if I can. I've only had a conflict one time. So yeah, hopefully soon. Typically, it's about every 6 weeks or so that they have me on there. And I hope it's again soon. To give you a way too long answer. You live in Santa Fe. All right, the show might be in Albuquerque. I'm not sure. I might do a show in Albuquerque, and then go to Santa Fe to see the O'Keeffe, just because Albuquerque does more comedy. And Vaughn, Vancouver is one of my favorite cities in the world. When we do the Northwest run, we are for sure going to be in Vancouver. And Matthew, I will definitely be in Chicago at some point. Yes. Phoenix. Have you ever been to the Musical Instrument Museum? I haven't, but that sounds like a museum I'd love. Good morning, Daniel. Good to see you. We're almost at 30, guys, and as soon as we're there, we'll start. I got a fun question for everybody. At least I'm excited about this. And thank you, Vaughn, for the congratulations on the engagement. Let's see. Courtney, did you ever have a chat with the public broadband guy in Tacoma? I did. He's the one who turned me on to Chris and the Institute of Local Self-Reliance. And we have since been corresponding. And I hope to have more news about that in the coming future. We're going to talk to some more people that are in that wheelhouse. And we're going to be doing some more coverage. And I'm going to be showing up to another city hall. There's going to be some stuff coming up. I hear you and Graham are coming to Boise in May. Do you think you guys will ever make it up to Montana? Ooh, I don't know when that would be. I love Montana, and I would love to play Montana, but logistically, that's a tough one. In May, we will be doing Salt Lake City and Boise, Idaho. I don't know how close that is for you, but those shows are happening in May. But right now, it looks like that's going to be the extent of that run. We can book a house party type gig if you want to cruise on your way to from Fresno. Drop me an email about that after the show, or whenever you feel like it. Drop me an email about that, and let's talk about what might work. Because, I think we're going to do something in Fresno in May. And, if we could coordinate something, that'd be super groovy. What's up, Chromatic Tree? Good to see you. It's been a little bit. It's been a while. And I think we're just at about 30, aren't we? I think we're here. I think we got a... and Slow News Day, ronplacone.com. Best way to email me. Denver. Oh, Balthazar, we're for sure coming to Denver. Don't worry about that. We are for sure coming to Denver. We're going to be doing a Colorado run. Hasn't been booked yet. It'll be in the later part of 2019, but it will happen. We are over 30. Welcome to Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. What does that mean? That means people send me ideas, they send me the news, and we build it together. We're seeing everything for the first time. This is the world's first improv news show. This is the chaos of joining together as a community and trying to figure out what the fuck's going on in this crazy thing we call a polis. Huh? How's that? And I'm stoked. And it's good to see everybody. It's good to see everybody. Happy Wednesday. This is the hump day. This is kind of our Thursday in a way because we don't do a Friday show. Friday's when the podcast drops. Which, by the way, if you don't mind, a quick PSA. Please do write a review for the podcast if you can. I know some of you guys, you don't do the podcast because you do it here. That's fine. Some of you guys do both. Some people only do the podcast because they can never catch the stream live, so they like to just get a weekly summary from the podcast. That's why I make everything available. But the podcast is still very, very new, and it could use some reviews. So if you don't mind, write a review over on iTunes or Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcast. It'd be very much appreciated. It's just Get Your News On with Ron wherever you get your podcast. Guys, so this is happening. Let me go over to this and show you guys something breaking because it leads into my question today. Pelosi asked Trump to reschedule State of the Union because of the shutdown. You know what's weird? I guess this is just a product of being from the AIM generation, if you will. And by AIM generation, I mean AOL Instant Messenger. Whenever I see this, I always just think, shut the fuck up. STFU. I know, obviously, those aren't the letters, but, whenever I just see it instantly like that, I always just think, shut the fuck up. That's what I always think, immediately. So whenever I see that, I'm like, oh man, Pelosi told Trump to shut the fuck up. She's taking the gloves off. No, that's not what's going on here. Pelosi asked Trump to reschedule the State of the Union address because of the shutdown. The House Speaker is citing security concerns, but Democrats also don't want to give Trump a platform to blame them for the shutdown. Speaker Nancy Pelosi on Wednesday asked President Donald Trump to reschedule his State of the Union address or deliver it in writing as long as the government remains shut down. The president was set to give his annual speech to Congress on January 29th, but Pelosi said the partial shutdown has hamstrung both the U.S. Secret Service Department and the Department of Homeland Security, potentially harming the security planning that precedes the primetime address. So here's what she said. Sadly, given the security concerns and unless the government reopens this week, I suggest we work together to determine another suitable date after government has reopened for this address, or for you to consider delivering your State of the Union address in writing to the Congress on January 29th. Trump hasn't responded yet. So here's my question. And I do think the Politico article is being honest when they say part of it is they don't want to give him a platform to blame the Democrats for the shutdown. Do you think Nancy Pelosi is doing the right thing here from a political standpoint? I'll go ahead and answer first. No, I don't. I think if ever there was a time to skewer Trump and to really hold his feet to the fire and to hold him accountable and to make him answer to the American people, it's right now. You have security concerns? He can pay security out of his own pocket. Trump can pay security out of his own pocket. And if ever there was an opportunity to respond and to skewer him and to hold him accountable, now's the opportunity. But Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer don't want to do that. Why? Because they're weak. They are weak. And they can't do that. They've proved that. I mean, there's polls out there, even the people that agree with them in regards to the shutdown still don't like them and still think that they're weak politically. I fall into that category. You know, even people that agree that, yeah, Trump's wrong on this shutdown. He's wrong on wanting that border security money, the wall money. He's wrong. But still, this, quote, opposition is pathetic. And it's so interesting whenever you see these addresses where Trump speaks, then Pelosi and Schumer speak, and then you know, you can catch Bernie Sanders or somebody like that. It's really interesting. It's like sitting through two really shitty opening acts to wait for the headliner. The problem is those shitty opening acts have all the power. And that's by design. That is by design. So I think it's a real testament how weak the Democratic establishment really is. That they have this golden opportunity to hold Trump accountable. And they don't want to do it. They're not able to. They're scared that he's going to throw them under the bus and they're just going to take it. And speaking strictly politically, they are so weak that it's not appropriate to call them in opposition. They're not in opposition. Again, when people watch this political theater, to me, it looks like somebody taking the game between the Harlem Globetrotters and the Washington Generals seriously. It's not a real match. So I think this is totally weak and political theater and pathetic. I mean, I can't think of another word to describe it other than pathetic. They should want him to give his address. They should tell him, pay the security out of your own pocket. You can afford it. What are you guys saying? Tim says, holding Trump accountable would force them to hold themselves accountable. That's why it ain't going to happen. Lady says, I don't think they will be able to push through it. The American people are going to see all of this for the con job that it is. Frederick says they're really on the same team. Joseph says, it is pathetic, but I don't think the current Dems have the capability to do proper opposition and they'll somehow manage to screw it up. Well, of course. Absolutely. Let's see. They're faux-aggressives. Let's see. Daniel says, spot on, Ron. Totally agree. Sean, what is the best way to send an article? Twitter. And it's best to do it before the show. Andre is live from the teacher strike. We're going to be talking about this teacher strike. And Andre, maybe you can illuminate us a little bit. This is true, Ron, says Schultze. Time for progressives to rally harder than ever. Have some backbone finally. David says, STFU is what I think when I see Pelosi. I just always see that whenever I see State of the Union. Like, whenever I see that, I think shut the fuck up. I think it's a testament, AIM generation, AOL Instant Messenger, to date myself a little bit. Before we move on the question, or to other things, and we'll go to the teacher strike next, does anyone think she's doing the right thing? Does anyone think this is smart politically to have a moment where, there's not a State of the Union because the government shut down? Krillin, thank you very much for the Super Chat contribution. Remember, Trump is literally in the WWF Hall of Fame. I actually think that's kind of cool. Like, that's why they make those jokes where they're just like, Donald Trump is in the WWF Hall of Fame and I still don't like him. That's saying something. I would love to be in the WWF Hall of Fame. Matthew says Pelosi and Schumer really are the disappointing parents in a sitcom. So, all right, so does anyone think it's the smart thing to do? Doesn't look like anybody does. There's 57 of us right now. None of us think it's a good move. I can accept that. I can totally take it. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about the teacher strike for a little bit. This is something that I believe Joe sent this in. And we got some people that are tuning in live from the teacher strike, which all power to you. Solidarity. Thank you for being there. Thank you for doing what you do. And you guys know how to reach me. If there's any way I can help out on the communication end, let me know. Please do not hesitate to let me know. All right, but let's go to this right now. This is an interesting thing. LA teachers are mad about charter school growth. Why won't Democrats acknowledge that? In the first major strike since the U.S. Supreme Court struck a blow to public sector unions last June, more than 30,000 L.A. public school teachers took to the rainy streets Monday to launch the L.A. Teachers Union's first labor stoppage in 30 years. And it's still going on. We know that. There's some people there that are there right now as of the recording of this. It's the 7th major teacher protest over the last year, but unlike their counterparts in Arizona, Oklahoma, and West Virginia, the LA teachers are not striking against austere Republican state legislators. Rather, they are striking against the policies of their Democratic-controlled school district. As the strike enters its second day, I think this was written yesterday, yeah. So the strike enters its third day. The LA Unified School District is keeping schools open for students to attend, including regularly scheduled morning and after-school programs and meal service. District officials also authorized spending $3 million to find substitute instructors, offering to pay them substantially more than K-12 substitutes normally earn. Still, roughly 360,000 students were absent from the nation's second-largest school district on Monday as families pulled their children from school in support of the striking teachers or to shield them from the chaos of an understaffed school. Negotiations between the district and the teachers have dragged slowly. And again, we know what they want nurses in the classroom. They want better facilities. They want to reduce the class size. They want to have 45-plus size classrooms. That's what the leaders of the LA school district wants to do. And teachers are saying that's too much because it is. But perhaps more notably, the teachers are also striking against school privatization. In December, the union called for a moratorium on the opening of new charter schools, which are publicly funded but privately run. Los Angeles has 224 charter schools, more than any other city in the country. On Tuesday, the union plans to protest outside the charter school offices. The Democratic Party has long straddled an awkward political balancing act between the charter school and labor movements, which both Democratic candidates, which both fund Democratic candidates, but are at war with each other today. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was the first Democratic congressional legislator to acknowledge that the teachers are striking over school privatization, joined by Ro Khanna on Tuesday afternoon. Bernie Sanders tweeted last week in support of the striking teachers and linked to a Jacobin article about school privatization. Well, I don't read too much into the fact that people aren't mentioning that part of the protest as much because they're protesting about a lot of different things. They're protesting striking. I guess technically they're protesting too, but striking. They're striking for better resources in the classroom. They're striking for smaller class sizes. Again, they're striking for nurses. I mean, that's the big thing. There's not a nurse at any given time for a student. Like that should have been the headline everywhere yesterday. So I do think that this article brings up a compelling point that the Democratic establishment and the neoliberal establishment, which runs California, has long time been an apologist for charter schools. And they're happy to take money from charter schools. But I don't think the people on the ground are intentionally neglecting that part of the strike. You know what I mean? Like, I think the people that are protesting, the people that are striking, I don't think they're intentionally not talking about that part of it. So, but that's another piece of the puzzle. You know, charter schools are getting all these resources, which, you know, it negates the whole idea of education as a public good. And when you get away from the idea of education as a public good, you veer into very, very dangerous territory. The idea of education becoming solely for the elite or restricted to the elite, that is literally textbook definition fascism. That's what that is. And we're going in that direction in the United States. When the fifth largest economy in the world does not have properly resourced classrooms and does not have properly sized classes, that speaks volumes. And it's because the resources are going elsewhere. It's because the resources aren't going where they need to go. So this is a serious problem. And right now we're in day 3. And all power to the teachers that are out there. All power to the supporters that are out there. They're doing really important work because striking has been somewhat successful so far. It was successful in Oklahoma. And they're doing it out in the rain, which I know for some of you in other parts of the country, you're like, come on, Ron, the rain. I'm like, hey, this is Southern California, all right? The rain is a big frickin' deal. The rain is a big deal here. I've acclimatized. I used to live in some of the rainiest places in the world. But now when it rains, I'm like, holy shit, I guess I need to shut down everything today. I have acclimatized. Solidarity to the teachers. All right, here's a story from David. A $3 billion problem. Miami-Dade's septic tanks are already failing due to sea rise. This could be quite a shitty situation. Huh? This article might really poop us out. You know what I mean? This is, if they don't fix this, it's going to be quite a waste. All right, that's it. 3. All right, 3. I stopped it at 3. Three poop puns and poop puns alliteration. 3. I stopped myself. I could do this for the next 40 minutes. I'm not going to. For your sake. I'd enjoy it. All right. Miami-Dade has tens of thousands of septic tanks, and a new report reveals most are already malfunctioning. The smelly and unhealthy evidence of which often ends up in people's yards and homes. It's a $1 billion problem that climate change is making worse. As sea level rise encroaches on South Florida, the Miami-Dade County study shows that thousands more residents may be at risk, and soon, by 2040, 64% of county septic tanks could have issues every year, affecting not only the people who rely on them for sewage treatment, but the region's water supply and the health of anyone who wades through flood waters. That's a huge deal for a developed country in 2019 to have half of the septic tanks not functioning. Wow. Septic tanks require a layer of dirt underneath to do the final filtration work and return the liquid waste back to the aquifer. Older rules required 1 foot of soil, but newer regulations call for double that. In South Florida, that's not much dirt between the homes above ground and the water below. So those regulations are based on the premise that the elevation of groundwater was going to be stable over time, and now we know that's not happening because of climate change, because sea levels continue to rise. So because the sea levels continue to rise, their septic tanks are not placed properly, and now everybody's covered in shit. That's the essential. Everybody's covered in shit. Is the short summary there? Covered in shit. That's how we end up. Do you want to be covered in shit? No? Well, sorry. One of the most... In a developed country in 2019, and a very wealthy place at that. I mean, Miami is a beautiful city. I was just there I had a wonderful time there. Thank you again to everyone that showed up. We had a sold-out show in Miami. It was a blast. I mean, just take a second and wrap your head around that. You know, the fun part about this show is that we're seeing all this news for the first time. So this is my first exposure to this. And it really does take me a second in real time to wrap my head around the fact that, yeah, we're not going to have properly flowing sewage in the United States in 2019. I mean, what? How shitty. All right, sorry. That's like 5. Yeah, all right, I'm done. But how crazy. I mean, how can you even wrap your head around that? And people still aren't sounding the alarm. The Green New Deal is being ignored. The climate committee that was promised to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has already been gutted. Over on the other side, the Republicans aren't even convinced climate change is real. They're not even convinced by it. I mean, it is, we got 12 years to do something. It's not too late, but the time to act is now. The science community will tell you the good news is it's not too late. The bad news is we're behind schedule. Holy shit. Literally. You're going to have shit in your fucking yard. What's it going to take for those with power to do something? Is it going to take shit in the middle of their house? Man. Hopefully something happens, but we are running out of time. All right, now guys, this next story has to do with corporate misbehavior. All right, this has to do with corporate misbehavior. Now I know there are some really important things going on right now. Like we should really be reading way too much into a shaving commercial. We should really let's spend some mental bandwidth on a freaking shaving commercial. But call me crazy, guys. I thought that this article is a little more important. Call me a radical. Massachusetts Attorney General implicates family behind Purdue Pharma in opioid deaths. Now, we covered this story when it first hit the scene. Here are some developments within it. The Sackler family behind Purdue Pharma knew that its painkiller OxyContin was causing overdoses, yet continued to cash in as deaths mounted, the Massachusetts Attorney General alleges in court documents that were filed this week. In a new 274-page memorandum, Attorney General Maura Healey details a chain of command that she alleges implicates 8 Sackler family members as well as 9 Purdue board members or executives in the nation's deadly opioid epidemic. An earlier version of the memo, filed on December 21st, was more than half redacted after Purdue Pharma argued to withhold information about the Sacklers, one of the richest families in the United States. Some sections remain blacked out in Tuesday's filing. The new memo spells out Haley's allegation that the Sacklers flooded Massachusetts with sales rep, influenced state legislation, and financially backed medical facilities and universities so that they could tout Purdue opioids. Haley describes former Purdue chairman and president Richard Sackler as a micromanager obsessed with profits in Massachusetts and the rest of the country. Tracking national sales, Sackler demanded that he travel to doctors' offices alongside reps and complained advertising about the opioids wasn't as positive as he wanted. Internally, executives worried about Sackler's promotion of opioids. I'm sure they did. I'd like to believe that. I don't know if I buy it. So here specifically is what they're referring to. There is a process called, there's actually an institution that is against this, and it's called No Free Lunch. What that is in reference to is what you get is you get big pharma executives, such as the Sackler family and their executives. They will travel to doctors' offices around the country. They will meet with doctors. They will buy them lunch and schmooze them and give them products. That's why a lot of times when you see pens in a doctor's office, you'll notice that pen is usually from some type of pharmaceutical company. This pen's from a hotel that I stayed at recently. But usually that's the case in a doctor's office, and you'll notice that in your doctor's office, typically. Now, one thing that you can do, and you can Google no free lunch, they, at one point, and I'm assuming they still have it, they have a list of doctors that have signed the no free lunch pledge. So you can kind of look at that and see if you can find a doctor based on that. You might not be able to, because it's not an issue that people talk about a lot. It's not an issue that gets a lot of attention. So a lot of doctors haven't signed this pledge. And I'd like to think it's not because they don't want to. It's just because it hasn't been brought to their attention. I'd like to think that. Maybe I'm right about that. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I only know so many medical doctors. But that is something that's out there. So what they'll do is the big pharma execs, they'll go to a doctor's office, they'll have lunch with them, they'll schmooze them, they'll give them all kinds of free stuff. And what do they want in return? They want more prescriptions for their drugs. It doesn't matter if the patient needs it or not. They want more prescriptions for their drugs. Should this be illegal? Abso-fucking-lutely. Is it? No. Because we let big pharma operate completely unregulated. There are no protections for consumers when it comes to big pharma. Because we've allowed this for-profit model to happen. In our healthcare and in our pharma. So that's what that's referring to, by the way, when they say that Sackler wanted to go to doctor's office and have lunches with people, and they're saying, oh, his executives were concerned about that. I highly doubt that. I highly doubt that's true. Because when you're an executive at a big drug company like that, you already know that stuff goes on. I doubt you're morally opposed to it. Or you at the very least passively accept it. So I doubt the person at the top, the very top, was the only culprit. I have a feeling people close to the top were culprits too. So Sackler wasn't satisfied with Purdue Pharma's sales in 2011. The documents allege. After 1 week of prescriptions doubled Purdue's forecasts, he wrote to the sales staff, I had hoped for better results. That year, Massachusetts sales rep pushed doctors to prescribe Purdue Pharma's opiates more than 1,000 times to elderly patients with arthritis, the memo says. So the sales reps went out and they pushed the doctors more than 1,000 times to give it to the elderly. The most susceptible and vulnerable among us when it comes to medicine. The elderly. And that's who they're targeting. One sales rep was ordered to increase prescriptions by 62% in Massachusetts. Purdue also threatened to fire 2 reps in Massachusetts because the physicians they visited hadn't written enough opioid prescriptions. So if you happen to be a sales rep, and maybe your physician just practices medicine and only prescribes stuff if it's necessary, then you risk losing your job. This is what we allow corporate America to do. We allow this to happen. And people passively accept it on all levels because we've just accepted the fact, well, corporations are just these amoral institutions and they're only concerned with profit, and that's okay. We don't take into account all the cyclical effects that happen because of it. And what people passively do, just saying, well, it's my job, whatever. The entire system is completely fucked. It's completely fucked. And there are bills out there that get the government directly involved with drug making so that the profit motive isn't the driving factor anymore. There's also bills out there to give everyone health care, i.e. Medicare for all. That would fix this problem. A problem, by the way, that other countries don't have. At least not near the degree that we do. Not near to the same degree. When you make human health a profit center, morally repulsive results will follow. And morally destructive results will follow. And death will follow. That's what we see on a daily basis in this country. And this is just one for instance. And now they're saying it's unclear if they fired anyone. So right now it looks like this court case is still going on. In the past 11 years, Purdue's sales representative visited Massachusetts prescribers and pharmacists more than 150,000 times. I'm going to repeat that. Purdue's sales representatives visited Massachusetts prescribers and pharmacists more than 150,000 times in the past 11 years. A status hearing is scheduled for January 25th in Massachusetts Suffolk County Superior Court. Purdue Pharma has in the past attempted to shield documents from becoming public. This is another day in the contemporary United States. There are people whose job it is to go persuade doctors to prescribe drugs that people may or may not need because it makes their company more money. And this business model is smiled upon by Big Pharma. It's smiled upon and encouraged and embraced. Doesn't matter if the patient needs it or not. Doesn't matter if it could cause addiction. And it has. What has all this led to? A opioid crisis. This has led to an opioid crisis. This has led to the demonization of pot and the unlawful imprisonment of people who have had pot. Because this is all connected to the drug war. This is all connected to hemp and pot and so forth. All these things are connected. No free lunch, evergreening. That's another thing the pharmaceutical industry does. And that what does that do? That allows them to renew their patent based on just changing something small about the drug, like changing the color of the pill or something, so that way generics can't be introduced into the market. And there's a bill out there to end that. And that's how they can keep your drug prices high, through stuff like evergreening, through stuff like giving free lunches to doctors and overprescribing stuff. And we accept this business model. It's absolutely disgusting. Again, it should be a headline every day. It should be a headline every day. There are people out there dedicated to getting you hooked on pills. There are people out there whose jobs rely on getting you hooked on pills. That's a job in the United States that corporations make people do. We accept that as business. That should be a headline every day. That should be a headline every day. Salaried employees' jobs rely on getting you hooked on drugs. I think people's heads would turn if they saw that. And they'd think, really? That's a thing? Yeah, that's real. That's fucking real. It goes on every day. Unchecked. Sleep tight. All right, we need some good news. And I got some. I'm a step ahead of you with some good news. A little bit of midweek music news, and I am stoked about this. Boom! Bikini Kill announces their reunion tour. Kathleen Hanna, Toby Val, and Kathy Wilcox reunite for their first full shows since 1997. Toby Val used to date Kurt Cobain. Also a great musician, but that's just a little fun fact. I don't know. Thought you might like it. Feminist punk pioneers Bikini Kill will reunite for 3 shows this spring in New York and LA. Kathleen Hanna, Toby Val, and Kathy Wilcox will be joined by guitarist Erica Dawn Lyle for the shows, replacing guitarist Billy Karen. These will be Bikini Kill's first full show since the band broke up in '97. In late 2017, Hanna, Val, and Wilcox played one song together at the Kitchen in New York City. During an event celebrating the release of the 33 1/3 book about the Raincoats by Pitchfork contributing editor Jen Pelly. I would like to read that book, by the way. 33 1/3, for anyone not in the know, it's like a book series about different albums. And I wanted to write them a proposal, because I wanted to do one for Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me by The Cure. But their proposal is pretty intense. I still want to do it at some point, but it's kind of not on the top of my agenda right now. There's just other things. I only have so much bandwidth. But anyway, So here's the dates. 425, Los Angeles, California at the Hollywood Palladium. 531, Brooklyn, New York at Brooklyn Steel. And then 601, also in New York, in the New York area, New York at Terminal 5. So if you're in New York or LA, I'm in one of those two places. Try to grab your tickets. I am going to try to get tickets for the Hollywood Palladium. I'm not sure when exactly they go on sale. They might be on sale already. But I do plan on attending that show. So any fellow LA dwellers, I will see you there. If you too are planning on attending the show. U2, a band I'm not a fan of. That's a show I wouldn't bother to go see. Not a U2 fan. And Bono is terrible politically, by the way. He's actually a grifter. Just to get, if you're a fan of their music, that's fine. But you should know Bono is a neoliberal grifter. All right, you can still like their music, that's fine. But be aware, Bono's a neoliberal grifter. Because I know a lot of times people would love to pat that guy on the back. No, he's a neoliberal grifter. Look into his organization. He's a neoliberal grifter. Bono, neoliberal grifter. Bono loves George W. Bush. Bono, neoliberal grifter. All right? Just saying. I happen to think their music sucks. That's just my personal opinion. I know some people love it. That's fine. Some of my best friends are U2 fans. And I've even said to them, you know Bono's a neoliberal grifter, right? And they're like, Ron, dude, seriously, can we just fucking have dinner, dude? All right, I enjoy Joshua Tree. Can you just? And I'm like, all right, I'm sorry. And they're like, yeah, dude, seriously, just fucking. And I'm like, you're right. Those conversations are real. Anyway, I don't know why I got off on that. Bikini Kill, great band. Essential band in the Riot Grrrl movement. Amazing feminist punk. Love their music. And I really hope I get to see them. I did get to see L7 before. It was freaking awesome. I've gotten to see Sleater-Kinney before, so I have seen some Riot Grrrl bands or Riot Grrrl adjacent bands, and I hope to add Bikini Kill to that list. And if you really like that stuff and you're looking for some modern stuff, I recommend a couple bands. I recommend the Dolly Rots. I recommend the Ravenettes too. But the Regrets was who I was thinking of. Sometimes I mix up my R's here. But the Ravenettes are phenomenal. The Regrets are phenomenal. And last but certainly not least. I'm stumbling on my word. Bleached. I highly recommend checking out Bleached. I saw them open for Against Me. They blew me the fuck away. I've since been listening to them whenever they're on Sirius Satellite. Bleached is a great band. And I sport their t-shirt a lot. I'm sure you've noticed me in it. Because I like that t-shirt. All right. So there's some good music news to lighten things up a little bit. We got one more thing we're going to today, and then I'm going to turn to you guys in the chat. And this is from Joe. Macron and French centrists don't have answers as Yellow Vest protests head for the 10th week. We're going to skim this a little bit. France started a new Saturday tradition, Gilets jaunes. Protesters wearing yellow safety vests started to take the streets by tens of thousands in the morning. This happened in last November. By the afternoon, the protesters would clash with riot police. This past Saturday, some 8,000 protesters showed up for Act 9, or the 9th week of protests, marching from Bercy in East Paris to the Arc de Triomphe in the west of the city. At least 85,000 rallied across the streets. The strength and endurance of the movement, which has no set structure, no clear leadership, and no political or institutional affiliation, has taken everyone by surprise, not least Macron. Macron rose to power by bypassing established political parties. The battle over the Gilets jaunes and the weakened French center has major consequences for populist parties on the left and the right throughout Europe. So let's scroll down a little bit. This is a really long article. The Gilets jaunes protests are unique in the intensity of the violence, both from the protesters and the police. At least 10 people have died during protests, mostly from being hit by cars and trucks while blocking the road. The security forces have responded to the protests with heavy force. At least a dozen people have lost an eye after being hit by flash grenades or tear gas canisters. More than 80 people have been seriously injured, according to the website checknews.fr. An 80-year-old woman in Marseille died after being hit in the face with a tear gas canister. This past Saturday, this is the author of the article, I saw police in Paris aim at protesters instead of into the air or at the ground. I myself was hit by a tear gas canister in the thigh. The police brutality has led to more of the French public coming to terms with what people of color, of the white French public coming to terms with what people of color experience on a regular basis. The fear of being targeted by police brutality has also contributed to some black activists or other activists of color expressing reticence to participate. The protests have had a massive impact on the economy as well. The country has lost millions of euros in damaged vehicles, storefronts, and more, while police officers' overtime pay has skyrocketed and international flights to Paris decreased by 5 to 10% in December. The disruption caused by protesters forced 58,000 workers to be laid off, temporarily suspended, or have their hours reduced. Macron's response to the crisis has been to repeal the diesel tax and to promise a host of other reforms, including raising the minimum wage by 100 euros a month. But critics have voiced skepticism about the plans to implement the promised changes, and Macron has tried to take control of the narrative by calling for a month-long national debate on key governance issues starting this week. The debate will feature a town hall-style forums throughout the country. There is no guarantee of any policy implementation. In the meantime, protesters are readying themselves for next Saturday. So it's intense over there. And there hasn't been many solid answers. You know, they're protesting for a lot of reasons, and we know this. It's not just for the repeal of the gas tax. It's also for living wages. It's also for tax breaks given to the elite. It's also for breaks to the oil and gas industry. And an overall response to neoliberal policies. That's what these protests are really about. And it kind of covers all sides of the spectrum. And really, at the end of the day, what is it really? It's a conflict between the haves and the have-nots. It's also about climate change. So what Macron needs to do is he needs to, first of all, roll back these breaks for the elite. He needs to roll that back, get rid of that. Up the living wages like he said he's going to. That's a good thing. Repeal that tax like he said he's going to. And then come up with a real Green New Deal and come up with a transportation solution. You don't just tax without any representation. You invest in transportation. You invest in more sustainable transportation solutions. And, you know, being a resident of the United States, I certainly can't point my finger at France. I mean, keep in mind, this is going on in France, a country that has the best healthcare in the world, arguably. At least according to the World Health Organization, they have the best. And I believe that to be true. But even still, there's so many problems because neoliberalism has reared its ugly head all around the world. Not just in the United States, it's everywhere. It's all around the world. It's not limited to the U.S. And it's infecting the UK, and it's infecting France, and it's infecting Canada. So the yellow vests are out there for the 10th week. And there have been some brutal results. And I guess my question to kind of end the show today, I'm going to go to you guys. What do you think's going to happen when the yellow vests protests come here? We are here to the United States. And I know some of you aren't in the United States, so feel free to speak to your experience about what's going on where you're at. You know, what's the climate like where you're at right now? Because right now, the yellow vests are coming to the United States, and I think that protests are a good thing. I, of course, don't want to see anyone get hurt. But protests, they're not just a good thing. They're an essential thing. They're a necessary thing. They need to happen. And, you know, we're going to be protesting similar to the Extinction Rebellion. There is an Extinction Rebellion chapter coming here. They launch on January 26th. So we're going to be protesting for action on climate change, for living wages, for a Green New Deal, for healthcare. We're going to be protesting for all that as well. And at the end of the day, how can you sum up the protest? It's a conflict between the haves and the have-nots. Read Saul Alinsky, Rules for Radicals. But what do you guys predict is going to happen? If I'm being totally honest here, I do predict that there's going to be a lot of brutality from law enforcement. And that's concerning. Because, I mean, they were brutal during Occupy, and I think this is going to be a much more amplified version of Occupy. So I think you're going to see more pepper spray. I think you're going to see more tear gas. I think you're going to see more. I mean, they pummeled people with freezing cold water in the middle of winter in the Dakotas when DAPL was going on. And I think you're going to see more security contracted out to the point where we don't even know who these people are. They're not even actual police officers. So I guess it's just something to be aware of and to be careful out there. But let me see what you guys are saying. Do you guys think, the other question is do you think it will lead to any type of policy change? My answer to that is I certainly hope so, because we don't have any other choice at this point. Poll after poll, after study, can tell you that public opinion doesn't really play a factor in our politics. It really doesn't matter much. It matters very, very little, if at all. So when that's the case, you have to protest. You have to have acts of interference, which involves protesting. It involves local action. It involves forming alliances on the grassroots level. And we got to do all the above. We can't just do one or the other. We have to do all of the above. We have to protest. We have to form alliances. We have to have a ground game locally. We have to help out locally and do things in our backyard. All that has to happen. All of it. And you know what's possible without a free and open internet? None of it. That's why I'm fighting for municipal broadband. Because I feel like that's something where my skills are best set for. And I think without a free and open internet, everything I just described will be way harder, if not impossible. Because it's the communication vehicle we've come to rely on. Let me see what you guys are saying to end the show today. Let's chat it up. First of all, I have some... Balthazar, thank you for the Super Chat contribution. I guess Debbie Does Ballots really does have shit on her face. I did some research on the religious demographics of Florida 23. This is from Balthazar. DWS and Canova were catering to the greater 3.5% of their population with stances on pro-Israel. I can't really speak to that for Canova or Debbie Wasserman Schultz because I'm not cognizant of... I know that's something Tim and I have discussed, and although I don't agree with him on everything on that issue, I certainly would not lump him in with Debbie Wasserman Schultz or Chuck Schumer. I think there's a world of difference between those two on that issue. For residents in California, check out ADEM's vote website. California Assembly votes coming up in my district, and we need more progressives in the California Assembly. This is from Scripts, Clips, Series, and Flicks. And yeah, adems.vote website is where you can go to find out how to vote for your assembly delegates. And there's been some shenanigans, but you got to go there and you got to find out where you need to vote. I have to drive about 40 minutes, but I'm going to do it. So thank you for sharing that, and thank you for the Super Chat contribution. Balthazar, we should create the green thong movement. Large people wearing green thongs in the halls of Congress, making Congress uncomfortable. It's hard to screw over the U.S. when you're looking at green thongs. Hey, man, you got to interrupt the machine somehow. Maybe that's what it's got to take. We're too rural for a yellow vest movement to grow as quickly as it has in France. Mike, I think that is a good point. Paris is united. Americans are divided. Divided we fall. Defund war like a government defunds education. I like that, Watson. They can label them domestic terrorists and lock them up and throw away the key. Ugh. Daniel says, we're going to see more and more fear-mongering. We must be vigilant. And David says, find your local Extinction Rebellion group for nonviolent direct action training meetings, xrebellion.org. And I like that, nonviolent direct action. I dig it. xrebellion.org for that. Thank you for the shout-out, David. Daniel echoes, they were brutal with DAPL, and indeed they were. Garden Gnome agrees there's going to be infiltrators and a lot of private security enforcement. That is a very big concern, but it's a very real one and one we need to be cognizant of. Let's see. And Jilly has a lovely Nina Turner quote. You won't get everything you fight for, but you will have to fight for everything you get. It's a beautiful quote. Thanks for sharing that, Jilly. Well said by Nina Turner. Guys, we are totally out of time. This has been Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. If I could please, tour dates. We're going to have, first of all, New York City. Keep your eyes peeled. We should have an announcement very, very soon. New York City in June. I'm going to be there with Graham Elwood. And we should have an announcement very, 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 very soon. We already have some East Coast dates confirmed. June 12th in Washington, D.C., June 16th in New Haven, Connecticut. Tickets for those shows are available now at ronplacone.com. Also, some tour dates coming up. March, we're coming to the Gulf. We're so stoked. We're going to be in Lafayette, Louisiana, Oxford, Mississippi, Pensacola, Florida, and New Orleans. Tickets available now. And April, we're going to Texas. Houston, Fort Worth, San Antonio, Austin. All tickets are available and dates at ronplacone.com. If you can support this show on the sustainability end, please do consider becoming a patron. For a give what you can level, you get exclusive content twice a week, and you get my album. And you're helping support this show. You're helping me upgrade equipment, helping me continue to make advancements, helping me to grow the show. I could not do this show without Patreon support. So if you can do it, great. If you can't, no problem. Totally understand. Share these videos. Spread the word about the show. That is also incredibly valuable, infinitely valuable. And this show could not grow without you guys. So thank you so much for being part of it. This show couldn't exist without you, quite frankly. Really. Without you, this show wouldn't exist. You know that. You guys are the executive producers of this show. So thanks for doing that. We will be back tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. And we will see you then. This has been Get Your News On with Ron. Peace.